Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly live show. I am Fabiana, pianist and business strategist for musicians. And we here in the Musicians Profit Umbrella program create prosperity and artistic fulfillment for musicians. We help musicians understand how to strategically package their skills and create a life that becomes a legacy, a life on their terms through alignment and incorporating all of their skills. So, we are here today as part of our weekly live show. I'm so excited to have you with me. My goal for these weekly shows is to really be able to not only share content, but also answer your questions. So, I'm going to encourage you to participate and help co create the content of these shows because I want to really help musicians elevate their lives, elevate their careers, and doing it in a way that doesn't mean sacrificing any aspect of their life without sacrificing their family, without sacrificing their artistry, without sacrificing themselves in the process. So today I'm going to share the top three reasons that I think musicians struggle with that really does not allow them to grow their business effectively. So we've called today's sessions the three reasons why you aren't growing as a musician entrepreneur. And let's just dive right in. So, again, as you're watching this, feel free to put any questions in the chat. I'll be answering them. And even if you're watching this after it's live stream, feel free to put the questions in there and I will come back and answer them as well. So, this is for you and it's your opportunity to get your questions answered. So, the number one reason, the first thing is a lack of self care. Before we start talking about music, about business, about marketing, about tactics, the number one reasons musicians struggle in growing their businesses is because they put themselves last. They don't take care of themselves enough. Get themselves to a point of burnout and exhaustion by not setting boundaries. And this is something that I have a conversation with very, very often in the musicians that I coach. And we can't expect to work on our businesses if we're depleted, if we are burned out, if we are not emotionally stable. We can be given the best strategies of the world and the best tactics. But if we are at a place of like being completely burned out and exhausted, none of that is going to help us really build our business. And in fact, when you look at people who are scaling their businesses going from 0 to 6 figures, 6 figures to 7 figures, 7 figures to 8 figures, one of the biggest things that they all advocate for and talk about is really the fact that they start putting themselves first. They don't just focus on the business. They don't just focus on other people, meeting others expectations. They focus on building themselves up first and taking care of themselves first and foremost. So, if you're looking at this and you're thinking, I want to learn the tactics, and what is stopping me from growing as a musician entrepreneur, that's the first thing is, are you taking care of yourself enough? Are you prioritizing yourself enough? It's easy to prioritize other people's needs when we need to show up for our students, when we need to show up for our clients. We show up. But what about when we need to show up for ourselves? When we need to go to bed at the earlier time that we had to set out to do, when we need to avoid distractions to stay centered, when we need to carve out time during the day for our meditation, when we need to make it to the gym as we had said we were going to, that's when it's so easy to kind of fall off the wagon and not take the steps you need to. So that's one of the things. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself so that you can focus on serving others, helping others, and build a business along that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is sometimes musicians struggle with positioning their work and creating the right messaging around what they do. They're doing many different things, and when they're asked, what do you do, how do you help people, what type of value do you provide in the work that you do, they are just like scrambling to be able to describe and talk about all sorts of things. And it's that lack of the right messaging strategy, the lack of the right positioning, which essentially is how others, how we create the expectation on others around what our business can do for them, how we position ourselves in the market, how we position our businesses, and the value that we provide in the eyes of others. That's what positioning is, right? And so, not having the right way of talking about what you're doing, the right positioning statement, that's one of the things that can also set musicians back because we're so focused on just practicing and playing and becoming the best at what we do in our craft as artists and creatives, and we don't spend enough time understanding how to talk about what we do, so that when we are given the right opportunities, we can actually be very concise and effective and attract potential clients, attract premium paying customers because they resonate with our message. So, working on your messaging, working on your positioning statement is actually one of the most important things. And actually, I'm going to be doing a workshop in a few days, and I'm going to be posting the link under this comp as soon as I have the page ready for you to sign up, because that's exactly what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be helping musicians develop the right positioning strategy, understand how to talk about themselves and the work that they do from a messaging and branding standpoint. So keep your eyes peeled, because that's coming up. And I'm going to be sharing the link for a completely free workshop that I'm going to be presenting in a few days. So that's coming up. That's a very important part of building your business. And sometimes we focus so much on um, amplifying the work that we're doing and amplifying our message. And we don't see the results because our message is not dialed in enough. So it's not that the amplifying efforts are useless. It's just that the message we're sharing isn't concise, isn't effective, it isn't really dialed down. So number two is make sure that you are creating the right messaging and positioning for your business so that people can understand at a glance what you do, who you help, how does it impact them, and why you are the best person to help them in this journey. And the third and final topic I want to bring up today, as we look at things that stand in the way for musicians growing, is our tendency to want to be all and do it all ourselves. It's our unwillingness to delegate and to create the right systems for others to take things off our plate, right? Oftentimes as creatives, we're quick learners. We know we can learn new skills, we can do things. And when we are given a new task, like for example, if you're creating graphics, if you're learning to build, an email list, and you're just trying to build it, all the things that we need to do to build awareness of our brand, awareness of our work in the online space, it is so tempting to want to just dive in and start learning all these things and doing all these things ourselves. And one of the things that really stops musicians from growing and really scaling to that next level is that tendency to want to hold on to the control of all of the things that need to happen around their business. And instead of saying, how can I now look at all of the things that I'm doing and more systematically delegate and outsource, or find support and guidance around how to do this faster, right? Instead, we want to just put the pedal to the metal, right? They say, and just do all the things ourselves and just go back and try it again and figure it out many, many times, because we're quick learners and we like to learn. I've caught myself in this situation many times, and it's actually one of my growing areas that I'm constantly working on to improve. And so I know this is something very, very important that we really need to emphasize in order to be able to let go of control, be able to let the wheels of our business start creating more leverage and building that more intentionally for ourselves and for our business. So I want to encourage you to look at your existing situation, the way you run your business. If you are doing all the things yourself, to look at what are some aspects of what you're doing that you perhaps should not be doing. You could either eliminate, or you could maybe outsource them to someone else, or just diminish the amount of time you're spending on, right? And so, lack of delegation, lack of systems, that is one of the key things that stops musicians from growing. So, to recap, our training for today, the three things that I think really stand in the way from musician entrepreneurs really growing and taking their businesses to the next level. Number one is lack of self-care, lack of boundaries, lack of prioritizing themselves and just focusing on the business instead. Number two is lack of messaging strategy and bad positioning, not having the right way of talking about what you do, and being able to create awareness around that in your community, in your audiences, in your potential clients. Being very diluted because you're just doing so many different things at the same time, not consolidating that strategically enough into like one strategic offer, one strategic message, one strategic positioning statement. And the third thing is lack of delegations, lack of a willingness of outsourcing and letting go of control so that others can help and get support, right? And it's very easy to find yourself with the excuses of, oh, well, but I need to wait until XYZ happens in my business before I can do this. No, you really need to do this now. And that only when you let go and when you start outsourcing and getting yourself supported in the right way, only then will your business reach the next stage. It won't happen the other way around. So if you're waiting for your business to give you permission to get support, you're doing it the wrong way. So I hope these 3 tips help you explore which of these areas are you holding on to? Are you still needing to improve? Let me know in the comments as you watch this. What was your key takeaway from today's session? And what are you most excited about implementing from these 3 tips? Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you next week. Let's prosper together.